The year is 1999, and American Beauty is about to turn Kevin Spacey into an Oscar winner. This was also the year when the dude from Matchbox 20 teamed up with Santana to sweep the Grammys, and Ally McBeal's Dancing Baby won over voters at the Primetime Emmys. But what about the Game Awards? If you've ever wanted to know what old school games took home the top prizes, then you've definitely come to the right place. Today we're going to recreate Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Awards of 1999, featuring 30 categories that include everything from Most Blatant Rip-Off to Biggest Comeback to Best Game for Lesbians. Yeah, that's a real category. So let me cue up the VHS tape and introduce you to the greatest televised award show to never be broadcast. Give me your heart, make it real, and don't forget about the best and worst games of 1999. Live on tape from the historic Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles, California, is Electronic Gaming Monthly's 12th annual Best and Worst Awards, brought to you by Revlon for some reason. And now, the reigning champion is Superman 64, Cyril Lachelle. Hello and welcome, my name is Cyril, and you're watching Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Awards of 1999. That's right, it's 1999. We're just minutes away from the new millennium, and I'm here to tell you that anything is possible. I want you to imagine a time when there are no more wars, when racial tension is a thing of the past, and the internet has brought everybody together to work towards a common goal. It'll be a utopia full of fresh ideas, exciting new breakthroughs, and, I don't know, probably flying cars. That sounds pretty great, huh? Well, we're almost there. Everybody, let's give it up for the new millennium. But we're not here to talk about how great the 21st century is going to be, because this was a year full of big video game stories. I'm talking about the Dreamcast, which launched with Power Stone, Marvel vs. Capcom, and Sonic Adventure. I'm not going to mention Mortal Kombat Gold or Expendables because I think a lot of us want to see this thing do better than the Saturn. This was also the year when console ports of Soul Calibur and Street Fighter Alpha 3 were actually better than their coin-op counterparts. Keep this up and we may never need to go to the arcade again. And speaking of which, this is the year that Sony gave us analog sticks, a rumble pack, and a game that's exactly like Mario Kart. We get it, you want to be Nintendo. What's next, a portable PlayStation and a Smash Brothers clone starring Parappa the Rapper fighting that clown from Twisted Metal? Whether you use Prodigy, CompuServe, or America Online, we wanted to hear from people surfing the information superhighway. When we asked online gamers what you wanted to see from this year's ceremony, most of you wanted us to focus more on anger and drama. You complained that we weren't mean enough, so we've listened. And I promise that this is going to be the angriest award show yet. And to prove that point, let's start with the game that should have been the coolest, but was crap. Our first category of the evening. If you're looking for a terrible game to close out the millennium, then look no further than Superman on the Nintendo 64. This is the coolest comic book hero of them all, and this game is a broken, buggy mess that never once is fun to play. Every cool thing you picture in your head doing as Superman sucks. The whole thing sucks. It should have been cool, but it sucks. Centipede also sucks, which is why it wins for retro game that should have stayed retro. Updating classic video games from the 90s is a catch-22. You want to keep the gameplay that made the original so addictive, but bring something new to the game that keeps today's players playing. Sadly, this updated version of Centipede took too many liberties and ruined a good thing. But thankfully, it wasn't as tough as Cho Aniki, Great Brother, which goes home with the hardest game statue. This homoerotic shooter was a big hit with the gay readers, who were met with a silly game filled with disturbing images and insanely tough bosses. And that brings us to Best Game for Lesbians. Wait, there's no way that's a real category. Oh, shit, it is. Alright, so here's what EGM wants me to read. Do we need to explain why Electronic Arts' Xena Warrior Princess won this award? If so, then just sit back, watch a season of Xena on the television, and enjoy all the sappho innuendos. Also, this is a straightforward action game, and the magazine later calls the lesbian influence yummy. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut to the audience clapping or something. I think we can all agree that Sega's Dreamcast had an incredible launch and will be a top seller for years to come. But I'm not so sure we can say the same thing about the winner of the next category, Biggest Vaporware. This year the prize goes to Nuon, which had previously been known as Project X. Before the PlayStation 2, Dolphin, Xbox, and even Dreamcast, there was this supposed super system. But here we are in 1999 and the technology looks dated, and there are only 2 games that we know about, Tempest 3000 and Iron Soldier 3. And speaking of dumb decisions, Naki easily wins for most worthless accessory for their dance performer pad. This is a dance pad for an obscure Japanese game called Dance Dance Revolution that'll never come out in the States. Sure, it's fun to use with the game, but it's completely useless without it. Thankfully, there was one accessory that made our lives a little easier in 1999, and that was the DualShock for the PlayStation. This twin-stick controller allowed us to experience the greatness of Ape Escape, the winner of most innovative controls. Forget the face button, because the analog sticks is where it's at. This, along with games like RC Stunt Copter and Quake 2, give us great hope for what developers can do with the 2 sticks in the future. Alright, so I just got a note from backstage telling me to be angrier. Apparently online gamers want to see more anger, and nothing pisses me off more than spending $70 on Donkey Kong 64, making it the clear winner for most ridiculously expensive game. Sure, you've probably seen more expensive games, and DQ does come bundled with the expansion pack. But here's the rub. If you already own the extra RAM, then you're basically spending $20 more on an upgrade you'll never use. And that's not the only problem, because Donkey Kong 64 also picks up the win for Most Blatant Rip-Off. Here's a game aping Banjo-Kazooie, which in turn was ripping off Mario 64. It's yet another one of those games where we explore a 3D world and have to find every last item. That's fun and all, but a little originality would be appreciated. And speaking of things that are rip-offs, Chocobo Racing takes home the statue for most blatant pimping of a mascot character. The problem with these feathered friends from Final Fantasy is that they found their way into pretty much every Square game. I mean, we loved it when Cloud rides one in the wild, but Chocobo Racing is such a blatant Mario Kart clone that it's not even enjoyable. At this point, it's only a matter of time before Square ships Chocobo Snap. When we were doing our research, we discovered that anger wasn't the only thing online gamers wanted, because it turns out that they also really like mocking people for what they look like. In an effort to seem hip, I want to introduce you to another new category: best reason to grow a mullet. I think we can all agree that the mullet is the Ishtar of the hair world, but playing NASCAR 2000 made this hideous do seem almost cool. Leave it to NASCAR 2000 to inspire and harbor the largest population of mullets since the American soccer boom of the early 1980s. I don't know what any of that means, I'm just reading what's in front of me. And while we're talking about new categories, let's give out the award for Best Reason for Kryptonite, which obviously goes to Mario Party. No, wait a second, I read the wrong name. This award was supposed to go to Superman, because that's the only way this made-up category makes any sense. And if you think we're done punching Superman 64 in the balls, then you have no idea how petty we're gonna get. You know, perhaps some of this anger could have been avoided had Nintendo released Perfect Dark like they were supposed to. But instead, it goes home with the prize for most hyped, most delayed game of 1999. Yeah, okay, Jet Force Gemini is fine, and Donkey Kong 64 is nice. Expensive, but nice. But what we really wanted to play was the spiritual successor to GoldenEye. There's been so much hype surrounding this game, and we were heartbroken to learn that Rare needed more time to make Perfect Dark, well, perfect. Have you ever noticed that as games start to look better, so do the people in them? To help celebrate the beautiful people found in our favorite games, we're gonna look at the characters that spiced up 1999. Let's go ahead and start with the gals of Soul Calibur, the winners of Hottest Game Babe. We know it's only one game, but when the only life you've got as an editor is to spend long, lonely nights practicing with the Soul Calibur gals, your perspective gets to be a little askew. Which might explain why Elephant Sack wins for Hottest Game Hunk. This was the user-created wrestler from WWF Attitude, and, well, let's be honest, it's mostly brought up as an inside joke. If you're asking this host, I think the clear winner is anybody from Cho and Iki. Those guys are not only shirtless the entire time, but also oiled up and sporting the most impossible six-pack you've ever seen. But those chiseled abs didn't win, so congratulations, Elephant Sack. You know, I also would have accepted the House of the Dead 2 crew as the Hottest Game Hunk, but instead they go home with a win for Best Dressed. Say what you will about the AMS members, but the one thing you can't deny is that they're snappy dressers. Everybody's wearing three-piece suits and designer shoes, which seems incredibly impractical for a job that's mostly about shooting zombies and gory monsters. Man, the cleaning bill has to be insane. Now, before we check in with our sponsors, I first want to draw your attention to Pokemon Snap, the Nintendo 64 game that wins the prize for so cute it made us sick. Fans of Nintendo's Monster in Your Pocket phenomenon may not mind the round-the-clock marathon of Pokemon Snap, but we can only stare at the doughy-eyed critters for so long before we gotta play something less sugary. Speaking of which, we'll be right back after these messages.
Can your fruit snap do this? It's the burstinest. It's the blastinest. It's Gushers Fruit Snacks exploding with a mega burst of fruity juice. If your fruit snack can't do this, it's not a blast. Gushers Fruit Snacks, it'll blow you away.
Prepare for landing on runway C.
Nothing beats the full throttle taste of High C with vitamin C and delicious fruit flavor.
Get one, clear for takeoff.
High C, full throttle taste.
On any day now.
What have you done to your hair?
Is she going through a harmless phase?
Do you have any idea why Kelly's all dressed up like Death Warmed Over? She's a total goth. What the heck is a goth?
Or is she in real danger?
I was just reading about these two little girls. They killed themselves in Tompkins Lake.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's kind of poetic.
Am I crazy? Or did my teenage daughter just imply that suicide is cool?
Don't miss any day now. Coming up next on Lifetime Television for Women.
Welcome back to Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Awards of 1999. Usually I'd tell a joke here or give a brief recap, but we gotta hurry this thing up before the Y2K bug kicks in and the whole show falls apart. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's time to talk about the worst games of the year, starting with Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. Okay, Legacy of Kain isn't a bad game. In fact, it's actually a pretty solid action-adventure. But a lot of people got very upset when they got to the end of the game and it said, "To be continued." That's why this IDOS hit wins the award for Game Most in Need of a Director's Cut. Or at least something that would leave you on a more satisfying note. Apparently the full release of Soul Reaver was actually about 2/3 of what was originally planned, so maybe spend the money to finish that 33% and give us the game we were originally promised. On that note, NFL Quarterback Club 2000 takes home the statue for Worst Sequel. This was a close race with a fellow footballer NFL Extreme 2, which nearly made the interception, but NFL Quarterback Club had further to fall. This is the sequel that ruined the franchise, what with the atrocious frame rate, unwieldy controls, and horrendous AI. I'll be shocked if another version of NFL Quarterback Club comes out anytime soon. On the other hand, I won't be all that surprised to see another installment of Street Fighter III, the winner of most number of sequels within a sequel. Remember all those jokes about how Capcom couldn't count to 3? Well, they eventually proved us all wrong by bringing out Street Fighter III. Unfortunately, it was lackluster. And apparently everybody else agreed, because here we are seeing the third version of the game hit the arcades. It does seem like they eventually got it right, but how could a company that is so good at making fighting games make such a terrible misstep? On the topic of fighting games, Mortal Kombat takes the prize for game franchise we're most sick of. Sure, Capcom keeps making sequels to their sequels, but at least those games are fun. The good times pretty much peaked at Mortal Kombat 2 and it's been all downhill since then. This franchise is in a rut, and I'm not sure what it's going to take for them to regain their former glory. I think it might be time for them to just give it a break. And that brings us to the game that is truly the worst of the worst. Superman on the Nintendo 64. This stinker is the obvious choice for worst use of a license because it fails in ways you didn't even think were possible. Titus's Superman is without a doubt the worst superhero game ever made, and possibly the worst Nintendo 64 game you're ever going to find. This is why it was also named the biggest loser in this year's awards. This game doesn't have a single redeeming quality, not one. It picked up 4 awards this evening, all of which highlight different things wrong with this offensively unplayable garbage. When a game's this bad, you have to wonder if we're actually being punished for something. What did we do to deserve this, Titus? Ladies and gentlemen, apes and chocobos, we're finally to the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, it's time to honor the best of the best of the best by naming our top picks of 1999. And I think the perfect way to kick this off is by celebrating the return of Sonic the Hedgehog, the winner of Biggest Comeback. After some lackluster sequels, a couple of spin-offs, and a multi-year absence, his new Dreamcast game is fast and exciting, and it's one of the best reasons to pick up a Dreamcast. Now, the only problem Sonic Adventure has is that it's not multiplayer, which is one of the reasons why You Don't Know Jack on the PlayStation wins the statue for Best Party Game. Forget Mario Party or anything on the Nintendo 64, because this year's best multiplayer game is the trivia game show you can't put down. This game show throws hundreds of useless questions at you, all in a way you've never seen before. And speaking of things you've probably never seen before, Pepsi Man is the winner for Coolest Japanese Game. You run, jump, and slide your way through level after mesmerizing level, collecting precious Pepsi cans as you go. Not since Rondo of Blood have American gamers missed out on a game this cool. And I guess that brings us to Best Sequel, which just so happens to be the game most bought by the EGM staff. Soul Calibur. Forget Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the King of Fighters, and Tekken, because Soul Calibur is the new fighting game champion. This is not only the first must-own game on the Dreamcast, but it's also an arcade conversion that's actually better than the original. The beefed-up single and multiplayer modes make this an instant classic, and the smooth action will ensure that Soul Calibur will be around for many years to come. If you still haven't discovered what all the fuss is about, then it's time to seek out a Dreamcast as soon as humanly possible. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but...
Cyril, stop!
Wait, who are you?
I hosted this thing a couple of years ago, but there's no time for that now. I've been to the future, and it's a nightmare. Electronic Gaming Monthly goes out of business a few years from now. VR sucks. Sega stopped making consoles. All of your favourite movies are being remade, and you can't say anything on Twitter without everyone getting offended.
Wait, what's Twitter?
Look, it doesn't matter because we have to go back to the very first ceremony and stop this whole series before the entire world is replaced by robots. We're the key to everything, Cyril, and it's our job to disrupt this confounded timeline.
But come on, won't people be upset when we don't come back next year and in 2001 and 2002 and beyond?
Hell no! People are only tuning in to see the commercials. There's no time to waste. We need to go right now. Come on, let's go!
Live on tape from a high school auditorium next to Kenny Rogers Roasters, it's Electronic Gaming Monthly's first annual Best and Worst Awards. And now, the only person that applied for the hosting gig, it's Cyril Lachelle. Hello and welcome, my name is Cyril, and this is Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Awards of 1988. We have a big show ahead of us, but first I want to thank the good people at Apple Orchard High School for letting us use their auditorium for what is guaranteed to be the biggest video game ceremony of the year. We're here to honor the biggest games of 1988, including Double Dragon, Phantasy Star, Rampage, and The Adventures of Bayou Billy. Let's hear it for Bayou Billy. So when the US National Video Game Team set out to create an award show, they wanted to keep it simple and streamlined. That's why we're only going to be giving out 8 awards tonight, so buckle up for— Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. Wait, who are you? Okay, this isn't going to make any sense, but I'm you from the future. And I, along with this guy who hosted the show for exactly 1 year, have come to make sure that this is Electronic Gaming Monthly's first and final award show. Sit down, Bolton, this shit is important. This simple and streamlined award show you like so much? Well, it balloons into a massive ordeal where some years we're giving out 38 awards, and they're not even cool awards either. I'm talking about really petty shit like Hottest Game Babe, Best Showing of Wood, Game Most Likely to Drive You Insane, and Best Games for Lesbians. No, seriously, that's a real category. And the quality of the award show is all over the place. I mean, some of the episodes are terribly written, almost as if they were rushed out at the last second by a guy who was also creating Game Over episodes and writing reviews. And we haven't even gotten to the robots yet. Oh, I hate to do this to you, but I think the only way to make sure this show dies is to blow it up. All right, Lauren, hit the switch. Let's end this. Hey, thanks for watching the series finale of Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Award Show. So, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite game from 1999? There were so many big games that year. I want to see your picks in the comments below. So, here we are at both the end of this EGM series and the end of the year. I appreciate you taking this journey with me and watching me give out hundreds of very real statues. We're going to be kicking off the new year with a bunch of reviews, along with Electronic Gaming Monthly's best and worst reviewed games. We have a lot to get to in 2019, so there's no time to waste. I want you to make sure and smash that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.